welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is the Aston Martin Lagonda, the car that just wowed everyone when it first appeared at the 1976 London Motor Show. Now, confession time, I was at that motor show and I was on the outside looking in at this extraordinary shape of Aston. Where did this come from? You know, this wedge design as it's so called. And William Townsend did the design, and it was like no other Aston. It was like no other car. It looked incredibly modern. This was the shape, this sort of wedge design, like the Countach as well. This is how the future was envisaged by Aston Martin at the moment, and it had this digital dash as well. And I remember at the motor show, you could never go onto the Aston Martin stand, and you were sort of sat there outside, and I watched this couple being brought onto the stand to be shown around this car, and all I remember, she had this fox fur coat on, and it was surreal seeing this incredibly glamorous pair looking at this car, thinking, wow, what a life that must be. It's so different to my life at the time. So yeah, 1976 it arrived, and it's weirdly it's Series 2. So it was the Series 2 had gone to Series 1. They did a four-door version of that Aston Martin V8 Vantage I had in the other day. The Series 2 was this shape. It didn't actually come out production cars until 1979, and they had a nightmare with the digital dash on it, and it got upgraded. So it was quite a tricky time. They came out of a Series 3 with an updated dash, briefly Series 3, and then this Series 4 arrived in 1987. They tried to modernise the design and got rid of sort of swage line down the side, which is a bit of a shame. It lost the pop-up lights as well, but it gained these three lights and a smaller radiator. Anyway, we'll have a look at those details in a moment. But this was a very expensive car. Top of the price list before this came out was Rolls-Royce, Corniche, that sort of thing, Camargue. But this stepped above everything. This was the statement car. Bentley Turbo R hadn't appeared when this was. This was, as I say, 1976. Turbo R was in mid-80s and sort of matched the glamour of this car. Let's go and have a closer look. Now, as I say, this is the Series 4 version of the Aston Martin Lagonda, and this particular car was the third from last built. So it was actually delivered to its first owner 24th of May 1990. Mrs. J.B. Brooks from Guernsey. So this started its life in Guernsey and spent a few years there. And it's the only one painted in this colour, and this colour is Rolls-Royce Royal Blue, and does seem to suit it very well. So Series 4 differed because it didn't have the pop-up lights, but it did gain these 6 quartz halogen lights across there, and also it lost its little radiator grille. They had this miniature sort of radiator grille. They really shrunk this. It's such a signature of the design of this. What actually happens, if you go down, you'll see the radiator sits down there. So that's the main intake. It's actually underneath bumper line, but it does give it such a distinctive look. Then if you come round the size, what strikes you about this car is just the size of it. It's well over 5 metres long. I'll flash it up now, 5.3 something metres long. So it's longer than today's Range Rover. That's a big car. 1976, it felt huge. And with a Series 4, you actually gained 16-inch wheels, so they went up a size. Now, I should just say now, this car is on the wrong tyres, 255 65 by 16. There should be 60 section, so that's why they look a bit tall in the wheel arch. And even weirder, they're mud and snow tyres on it for all year motoring on it. I've picked this car up from Ben at Mayfair Collectibles, and he came to visit Charlie, and I just said, I've got to drive that car. I've never driven one of these cars, and it drives superbly, but it's just odd it's on these tyres. We're not quite sure why it ended up on mud and snow tyres, but there you go. Huge size of it. 4-seaters, but it's not a big passenger compartment behind here. This car is all about you want to drive it, and this madness of this interior. You'll see the dash all lit up in a moment when I take it outside, but just so luxurious. Now, if you come round here into the back, you can sort of see it is a little tight back there, but it is these incredible lamb's wool rugs you got on it, and you've got a moon roof as well. They all seem to have this moon roof, and they don't open. You've got blinds should you want to sort of shade a bit of sunlight out of it, but just the plumpest, most luxurious leather you've ever come across with lamb's wool rugs. But I've got to show you the boot on this car. Up it goes, great big boot on it. Little space saver there, but I love this car because it came with fitted luggage. Have you ever seen fitted luggage like that? And it was finished in the body colour as well, Aston Martin crest on there. If you're ever going to use this sort of bag, there we are. There is the fitted luggage, Aston Martin on there, secret compartment, all beautifully done, but completely mad. But yeah, typical of Aston Martin in the 80s. There's another case underneath. There's actually 3 cases you've got with this car. And the other thing about this you've got to remember is, it surprised me, it's all badged Lagonda. There isn't an Aston Martin badge, apart from on the luggage, on the outside or inside of this car. Then at the rear, you just see hidden away little tailpipes, the exhaust there, the big statement number plate, and the lights actually change. This is another Series 4 change. Initially they were here in a row and the number plate sat here, but this is part of the redesign for the Series 4, apparently to make it look more modern, as if that was a problem for this car. Now let's have a look at the engine. Very big bonnet. There is the V8 engine. Series 4 form, it was fuel injected. 284 horsepower, 320 pound-foot of torque. So not massively tuned, not in Vantage spec or anything like that. But there's acres of space here. There's a great big hole at that front area, because that's obviously where the pop-up lights were, but now it's sort of redundant. There's air horns and washer fluid and that sort of thing, battery this size. But yeah, loads of space, and that engine shoved back. It's not actually behind the wheels that far, it's just, this car is just so long. There's space everywhere in engine compartment and the boot. It's just a shame there wasn't a little bit more in the rear seat compartment. But anyway, let's take it outside, take it for a drive. Bizarre how sort of small the door is, and then you get in and it's this huge vision, these great big screens everywhere, and everything is so soft to touch, and that these lamb's wool rugs are just ridiculous. I mean, they're huge, great rugs. They're not like a Rolls Royce that's sort of small and just in that size. They go up the sides and past the seats as well. Anyway, all sort of madness, but they all had them apparently, Lagonda. That's what everybody ticked the box for. And then you're met by this dash, which I'm gonna start the engine straight away, because there we are, Lagonda. There it is, all lights up. And apparently it came from Corvette with these Series 4 ones, but the good thing is it now works. It's not the Sinclair early ones that they had a complete nightmare with, and then the cathode ray ones that they tried and just didn't work. This is the one, Series 4 with this Corvette dash, is the one you want. This particular car has a fault. It says it's done 161 miles. No, it hasn't. So if I press kilometres, that is the correct mileage of this car. So 36,400 kilometres, that's a bit more like it, but it's just they do that, sir, apparently, on this Age of One. And I can put trip computer on here as well. 6.8 mpg, my goodness. Well, they do, they've always been a little bit thirsty. I'm not sure if that's actually correct, but the way I can change to kilometers or miles per hour is very good. I'll leave that. I don't really want to touch anything on there. And then the other thing that strikes you when you get in, size of the wheel, little tiny wheel on it, and quite heavy. We'll go to that in a moment when we get going, but that's a surprise, the layout. And then this vast amount of space in front of the passenger, because he doesn't get a glove box. You've got the center console coming here, but normally the dash would sort of stop there, but no, to emphasize the space in it, they did away with that. There's just some air conditioning outlets there. Ignore this Blaupunkt, that's getting changed for a more period one in a moment. And the window control switches are here, that used to lay out here. why Lagonda thinks you need at least, there's two cigarette lighters, or should they be cigar lighters, in the front here, and then another one here to hand just in case that isn't enough. That's just nuts. Seat controls are here, so backwards and forwards, backrest on this one, little center console here. That apparently is the how you open the boot on it. I didn't realize it had that switch for the boot in there. A little cubby hole in there, yeah, and all very plush. That's what you notice about it, and just this super comfortable seat. Yeah, the wheel does move, but only at angles like that. It doesn't come out or anything like that. Nothing as fancy as that. So let's strap in. 3-speed auto on this, Chrysler automatic gearbox. They fitted that for reliability, and they just work. This particular gearbox, you could not have a manual gearbox option with this car, which is sort of understandable. That's not the sort of car we're after. So into drive, quite a quick step off. As soon as you touch the throttle, fuel injected engine is off. Let's go and go and find some better roads. So other things on the dash, this is cruise control on here. You've got fillers either side of this car, so you can have left or right, just depending which one you've gone to. And I think I've just opened one, so I'm going to have to run out and close it. What a plonker. Yeah. Those switches are very sensitive, which I didn't quite realise how sensitive they were. What else have we got? Yeah, and that's how you control the lights on here, and I've got air conditioning and things down here, mirror control there. Anyway, let's get going. And off we go. Very relaxed how it moves off. 40, 50. Sun's on the dash now. One of the downsides of digital dash, you can't quite see it if the sun's shining on. 52 we're doing. Yeah, it's quite long geared. First takes you to 60. Second will take you to 100 miles an hour allegedly, and then third will take you all the way up to its quoted top speed of 149 miles an hour. But yeah, comfy behind the wheel, small wheel, and the wafting is coming apparent already. That's what this car is around. It rides nicely, it feels very direct, the steering. In fact, it's only 2 turns lock to lock, which is sports car quick. That's TVR quick. Mad, didn't expect that at all when you just look at this car, but it's all part of the experience, the Lagonda experience. It's quite tight footwell. I'm quite tempted to take the lamb's wool rug out because it's so enormous and it's tight anyway. I could sort of do a little bit more space. The step off is really quite good for a 60 mile an hour first gear. Just must have been a spaceship in 1976 seeing this thing rock down the road. Every time I get in a car this period, I'm reminded just how much vision you've got from these expansive windows. Just don't get it to now. I think it's because it came from a time before NCAP crash tests were a thing, and now we all drive around in sort of four-wheeled steel vaults, which I suppose is the way of the world really. Now let's try a squirt up the hill. I think I'd let it do its kick down thing. I'm trying to approach, I think at 31 miles an hour, not quite sure, I think it is. And let's just see what it does to squirt up the hill here. Ooh. Yeah, I think, come on girl, there we are. Let's say that was just on 60 miles an hour up the hill then. What you have to remember about the Lagonda, it's a very big car, and despite its all aluminium bodywork, it does weigh a bit. Bless it. 2,064 kilos to be precise is what Aston Martin declare. I haven't actually had a chance to weigh this car. If I weigh it, I'll put the weight in now. But yes, that 280 horsepower is quite a low tune V8 actually in this. It's not a Vantage spec at all. it's torquey, it's relaxed engine, but it's got a lot of mass to operate against. They actually quote a 0 to 60 time of 8.8 seconds and a 0 to 100 time of 20.5 seconds. So yeah, I think a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow was quicker than that. But despite the Aston Martin lineage and heritage, this is very much a mile muncher and not an overtaking B-rolled weapon. And what am I going to do? I'm going to take it down my favourite bit of road, but I can't help it. See what this car's like. Just hardly any lock to turn around there. It's bizarre how quick the steering is. Yeah, I slip it into drive. Bumps, obviously they don't exist. Even with this, particularly on this example, with these super tall tyres on it. And the other thing I noticed after that Advantage V8, just it's more linear on the brakes and the steering is better. Just it has weight to it, but it's so sharp and so direct. I prefer it actually to that Advantage V8, which I never would have guessed without driving the two cars. Honestly, just eat miles with this. Yeah, there's no point talking about the bumps and directness. This car just goes straight on, no deviation. Wonderful. Price of this car, end of 1989 when this car was ordered, £120,000. Massive money, huge money. So it was a very rare sight. You wouldn't hardly surprised they didn't build that many. 645 is total production on these, and they reckon it took a week to make one. So yeah, maximum of like 50 a year came out of the Newport Pagnell workshops. Yeah, I suppose I ought to do some likes and dislikes. I'm going to briefly mention the dislikes. I suppose, yeah, one was just the size of it and the fact that it's sort of slightly out of ratio, but we'll come to the design in a moment. And two, it is fighting a lot of weight. It's fighting more weight than I expected from thinking it's aluminium and what Aston Martin's weigh. But let's go on to the likes. And you have to say, just the design of it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Out sitting outside the house, it's so elegant, so modern, so Thunderbirds. It's off the scale, amazing. I like that jaw-dropping moment that when I was there, 1976 at the London Motor Show, and stared at it then. I still do it now. Another like is it works. I mean, yeah, Ben Nafer, another thanks to Made for Collectibles for letting me have this car. I've had it a week and he's rocked around in it. He was slightly slow putting it on his website because I did 600 and something miles in it. You just go out, turnkey, works. And that's my experience with it. Charlie, my son, drove it at night. He said it has spectacular lights at night as well. So yeah, just not what you expect from this car, but I think it's helped by being the Series 4. And I'm told they are more valuable than the earlier cars because they are the ones that work. This is up for $89,950. I'll put the details in the video description. So design, still nice. And the way it handles and the sharp steering and the feel of the brakes is all good. Again, I wasn't expecting that at all. Let's just try it around here. See, I mean, it's quite tidy. I know what it's doing. I know it's got a bit of roll, but it's a comfortable cruiser. But out we go. Yeah, it just doesn't have that punch that you expect. It's all right, but it just doesn't have the punch you expect from the Aston name and the V8-ness and Vantage. My goodness, what an experience. What a wonderful experience. Just wasn't it great, the sort of cars we were making in the 70s and 80s when there was less rules to have to comply with. And this car obviously ended up very popular in the Middle East, shall we say, which was the buyers of the time in the 70s and 80s. but they bought them not to be chauffeured around in, to drive. And it is a unique experience, so I've enjoyed my time with it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, well, keep watching, keep subscribing, more videos coming along very soon.